I'm just gonna walk. If you see me just walking around taking pictures after this, don't laugh. I'm gonna totally geek out and do the whole touristy thing. It is just gorgeous here. Um, Thank you for coming today. My name is Bill Riley. I am a college external relations rep from Palmer College of Chiropractic. We have 3 campuses, California, Iowa, and Florida. Actually, Iowa, California, and Florida. And I wanted to present the chiropractic profession today. I'm going to keep this very much to the actual practice of chiropractic, the basis, the career chiropractic. I would love to talk to you more about my school, but I'm not going to inject a lot of that into my presentation today. Okay. So let me just do a quick. You may or may not know this, but I'm going to kind of refer back to this a couple times in my presentation. So let's start with a quick film.
What is chiropractic? Chiropractic is a total and preventive approach to health that focuses on wellness rather than disease. Chiropractors focus on the nervous system, which controls all aspects of the body. The brain sends messages through the spinal cord across a huge network of spinal nerves to deliver information to every cell, organ, and system of the body. According to Gray's Anatomy, the nervous system is the most complicated and highly organized of the various systems which make up the human body. The central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system consists of a series of nerves by which the central nervous system is connected with the various tissues of the body. A misalignment of the spine can hinder the body's functioning and health. Chiropractors perform spinal adjustments with their hands as their main tools. A spinal adjustment is the application of a precise force to a specific part of the spinal segment. The goal of an adjustment is to restore normal nerve transmission and assist the body in recuperating on its own. Chiropractic focuses on maintaining optimal health naturally, without the use of drugs or surgery. Rather than treating the symptoms of disease, chiropractors help the body help itself by allowing the body to work at its optimal best. From children to older adults, chiropractic can relieve pain, help support the body's immune system, and maintain good health. Chiropractic is part of a healthy lifestyle, no matter what a patient's age.
Thank you for saving that video, Dr. Rick. So a little brief bit of chiropractic history. So the chiropractic profession was founded in 1895 when this handsome devil here, who was a magnetic healer and soft tissue guy. At the time in the 1890s, obviously there was no formal neurology. Neurological science was in its pupa state. So really they thought there was an electrical or magnetic way in which the body communicated each other. And people who worked with nerves were called magnetic healers. So he had a theory, he and his family, who had traveled widely across Asia and had studied many kinds of physical folk medicine, that a unifying aspect of those, coupled with classic writings from various Greek and Roman physicians, mentioned to look to the spine, mentioned to look for the neurology. The 1890s was a dangerous time to live in the United States. There were many industrial accidents, farming accidents, paralyzations were common. And where a person was injured and what ceased functioning was fairly well understood, if not the actual mechanism for that. And taking that, he developed the idea of a subluxation. A luxation would be a dislocation of a joint, a subluxation beneath that. And where we would have these definite issues with a dislocation or a break, we would have symptoms beneath that with chronic interference of that area. So that if you suffered a back injury and a spinal cord breakage here, we can anticipate this much motor function loss, this much organ loss, function, bladder, things like that. But what if we have chronic interference in that area beneath that level? We could still expect symptomologies. And he ran from that. And one day, a fellow named Harvey Lillard, this is not Harvey, came into his office. Harvey had been deaf 17 years following a wagon accident. He adjusted Mr. Lillard. His hearing came back. As you can imagine, this was a pretty dramatic moment for both gentlemen. And chiropractic was born that day. Dr. Palmer opened Palmer School, now Palmer College, we like the word college, of chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa. It's still there, 117 years later. And named the profession chiropractic, which is Greek for done by hand. So right now, we have moved well into the pharmaceutical age. This is the Department of Health and Human Services telling us that half of Americans take at least one prescription drug, and that 1 in 6 are taking 3 or more every day. And what this does not mention is the over-the-counter stuff, which they can't even keep track of. Who'd like to volunteer? What are the 2 most utilized over-the-counter medications in the U.S.? Ibuprofen, but yeah, absolutely. And? No, Tums. Ibuprofen and Tums. It is a multi-zillion-dollar industry. The 5 of us would love to have some ibuprofen and Tum money. And if you think back to the neurological examples they gave in the movie, it's easy to start seeing why, because these same nervous structures that innervate your digestion are the same ones in that area that start to bother you with low back pain. And our common modern lifestyle is very hard on your lumbar spine. You're sitting in class, we're commuting longer and longer distances, we're sitting at home to do our entertainment and stuff in front of the TV or the PS4 or whatever it is, and there's a lot of sit, compact, so we all have back pain. And we take ibuprofen for that. And what we're not realizing that our chiropractor probably is that those nerves that innervate your digestion pass through your lumbar spine on the way out from the spinal cord. And this same mechanism, which is causing pain, because only a third of our neurology feels, in the rest, the other 2/3 are delivering messages, are delivering the messages to hyperstimulate that system. So we get chronic indigestion, which comes from a hyperstimulation of acid production, and you can absolutely take the purple pill and cut down 40% of your acid production. But based on chiropractic research, a good 40% of the people that suffer from these conditions have a mechanical issue, not a chemical. And these people can be cured. So chiropractic has a reputation for being anti-medicine. We are not anti-medicine. We are anti-medication for the well. And we are anti-treatment when a person can have and deserves a cure. So, what is a chiropractor? You know, sometimes, well, he's that guy, and he kind of adjusts me, or he's the one, he kind of, well, chiropractors are the primary care professionals for spinal health and wellness. Easy to say. I read it every time, but it's easy to memorize. And what that actually breaks down to is offering to integrate evidence, clinical experience, and patient values, and their preferences when possible, to deliver expert chiropractic adjustments with manual and other treatments. You know, there's a full range of adjunctive physical therapies that chiropractors are totally qualified to use. But as it mentions, our main mechanism is our hands. Caring and collaboration to enhance a patient's quality of life and performance. That's really where we live. That's what gets us out of bed. I'm going to talk a little bit more when I get to the comparison part of my presentation, but this is one of the areas that offers nearly all the benefits of medicine and avoids a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of doctors tend not to recommend that their families become physicians as well. So these are the just decided to go on out. Yeah, that's all right. So these are the kinds of sciences in the curriculum. Some very long names and impressive looking curriculum there. But what this really is serving to do is to show the primary care aspects, how similar this is to medicine, medical curriculum, how similar this is to osteopathic curriculum, for example. Chiropractors are primary contact physicians, and they're responsible for initial diagnostic of the patient. Physical therapy has been changing for years, but essentially is still not direct care. So the requirements for primary diagnostics fall on the chiropractors. So that's why we have such a very dense clinical and chiropractic science. And of course, we throw in some marketing too, because business skills are going to be more important for a chiropractor than many other kinds of doctors. A good percentage of chiropractors do move toward, and perhaps have come to chiropractic for that chance at a private practice. There's really not a lot of kinds of doctors or therapists these days that Kaiser is not telling them exactly how many Saturdays they're going to work. So it's like chiropractors and some old school dentists. So a lot of people, whereas you do not have to have a private practice, you don't have to hang a shingle if you don't wish to. There's lots of things you can do. We tend to attract the kind of person that wants to do that eventually and take charge. So I like visuals. These are hours. These are degree requirement comparison hours. Sometimes you'll hear people who are less informed say things like, well, chiropractors are not real doctors. Yeah, and codified in the Affordable Care Act as primary care physician. So this just kind of highlighting the areas where we live the most. Obviously, we're offering physical medicine. Anatomy is going to be really important to what we do, is the hours of anatomy relative, on average, to other kinds of physicians. Physiology, and of course, orthopedics. So where we live, we rule. I mean, we have a wealth of experience in the real belly of what we do, and more than enough adjunctive sciences to offer an informed referral where that's the case. So if I come to you, you're my doctor of chiropractic, and I'm experienced shooting pain from this part of my spine. It's probably been about 8 days and I can't stand it anymore. You start doing some neurological challenges. You notice that the pain is radiating the wrong way, with rest, not with action. You start saying, it looks like it's renal. I think you're growing a kidney stone. You should probably see a medical physician. Because if you start adjusting me twice a week while I go septic, and that's why it's really important. Diagnostics especially. It surprises some people that we're this good at X-ray. But the very, very specialized views to take a look at what's going on, to track degenerative disc diseases. These are really specialized shots, which are sometimes not your basic 7 or your lateral shot, things like that. So we have to get really good at X-ray, and especially extremities. Chiropractors are very good at extremities because we're working with the spine, right? But we're working with the musculoskeletal system as it affects neurology, and what is most likely to disrupt your spinal balance are your shoulders and your feet. So, but I'm like physical therapy. My dad likes osteopathy because it's a lot more safe, because the job outlook is good for these other things relative to chiropractic. And that's actually, according to a lot of third-party sources, people who will not be making medical or chiropractic money. That's just not true. The U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, in its 1314 publication, expects chiropractic to grow faster than the average for all occupations through 2022. And if there was ever a doom and gloom agency for giving out these stats, it's the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, which is still very much afraid of the 2008 recession that we went through. So it is always very conservative when it puts out its projections. Not only that, but an even more recent Market Watch publication in March of this year shows chiropractic as number one in job security. There are almost no unemployed chiropractors. And of the chiropractors that are employed, 86% are working in chiropractic, as opposed to the grocery. Many of them are teaching, but the ones who are not teaching chiropractic may be working in schools, maybe working in other kinds. I know some chiropractors who graduated from Palmer, they're working at Touro University as instructors, things like that. But the vast majority of them, what they went to school for, would that be refreshing? Actually, did you do what you went to school for? Market Watch. A recent Gallup poll, this is appearing on the Palmer website. This is also going to be in a JMPT journal next month. You know, the Journal of Physiological Therapies. It's the physical medicine wing of the AMA. Read that journal, it's good. But amongst that, a poll on chiropractic and the results and the methodology that they use. Chiropractic is in a very definite upswing from approximately 20 million people who sought out chiropractic care in 2012, and that increased by more than 50% 2 years later to 33.6 million people. Considering that there are about 75,000 practicing chiropractors in the U.S. right now, according to the American Chiropractic Association, these people are busy. I mean, that's really good math when you start crunching those kinds of numbers. So it is definitely a growing field whose only issue right now, if it has one, is access. Because we have close to 400 million people in the country who are physically incapable of seeing 75,000 people. So as there become more chiropractors, there will be more access and more referral to chiropractors. Not the way that you may go through a particular area that happens to be densely populated with chiropractic, like Orinda, and get the impression that there's a chiropractor in every corner, because there's not. Yeah.
How difficult is it to start your own practice? Because I feel like that would be like a lot of money having to put into it coming right out of school.
Yeah, don't do it coming right out of school. Well, you'll have all the skill and knowledge that you need, but nobody knows you exist. So basically we have well-established chiropractors all around you and no community presence. There's not a good reason why people should come to see you yet. So we recommend associating with a more established doctor for a couple of years. It lets you put that fine edge on your technique. It lets you build a patient base, perhaps a community presence as people will come to see you. You're making very decent money. And it also kind of trains you to live on that amount when you're making this much money, but this much is going into the practice. So then when you have a sufficient patient base, you can take them and go. Okay, now anybody who wants to see me needs to see me over here. or you can use that patient base to buy in as a partner instead of an associate. And now you're a co-owner. And the doctors that take in associates are usually on the 5 or 10 year track to retirement. And they usually want a well-trained staff that they can leave the practice to, knowing that these 2-3 associates can handle what took him 25 years to build on his own. So that's usually how it goes. There are other ways because there's other things to do with chiropractic, but specifically for a private practice, that's usually how it goes. Keep it okay. Keep me honest. Okay. Such as independent practice, but also working as part of a group practice. And this is any combination of partners, associates, where more than one person owns the practice or runs the practice. Different from the chiropractor and his employees, which could be physical therapists or massage therapists. I just spent the morning with Dr. Appleman in Moraga, and he's got acupuncture in there too. So it kind of depends on the kind of practice you want to run. Multi-specialty health group. And sometimes they'll call this like your one-stop kinds of places. So instead of being specifically a chiropractic, it'll be more like an allied health place. And they tend to have lots of different kinds, as opposed to mostly physical medicine. So you may have some traditional Chinese medicine in there. You may have some reflexology and massage in there. There may be all kinds of alternative care like aromatherapy and things like that. Chiropractic, being a natural, non-invasive, very holistic, much more than even many of the things that I have mentioned to you, because we don't use drugs, we don't use surgery, we don't use herbs, we don't have any invasive procedures like acupuncture, which is like the definition of an invasive procedure. It is actually a lot more naturalistic that way. So it fits well and offers that licensure, the diagnostic person in there to screen the patients for everything. Research, it is not sexy. We tend to attract people who are people. They want to put their hands on people. They want to get people well. They want patients. They want to be active. They want to train. They want to rehab. But we need quiet, thoughtful, logical, organized people to help us crunch these numbers. The numbers coming in, the mapping of the spinal cord, the human and animal trials. It's very important to the continuation of chiropractic is the research, because chiropractic deserves to grow and modernize next to every other kind of healthcare. They have the largest chiropractic research center in the world in Davenport, Iowa, 4 stories. Very sophisticated. We also use everybody else's research, of course. That's the cool thing about having a for real healthcare system. We can look at orthopedic neurology results. We can get data from the Christopher Reeve Society for Paralyzation, and have some of theirs uber money, and they're very powerful computers map nervous pathways to see what happens at this level, what happens at this level, what happens at this level. There is an increase, factorial increase in nerve specificity and the innervation of the spine as you go higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. So you have real survival stuff up this high. Down here, you get a break here, you can't walk. You get a break here, you can't breathe. So these are the kinds of things that we really need more research, just like everybody else does. We need these people. Hospital staff, yes. DOD and veterans, always. Samuel Merritt and Kaiser in some cases. They do have that. If you wanted to work in a hospital environment, and to be honest with you, we tend not to attract the kind of people who do. But Walter Reed, Bethesda, Maryland, in the physical medicine department, has chiropractors right there. So President Obama can get chiropractic care anytime he wants. Oops. I did something weird. There we go. Corporate. This is brand new. And I'm old, so brand new for me means, 5 years. All the big company, Google, Facebook, Cisco, all those really cool employee services that they offer, babysitting, massages, free cafeteria, chiropractic care. And I happen to know that there are 2 chiropractors in every one of those companies that I just mentioned to you. And I know because they came from my school. Sports chiropractic, pediatric, veterans, geriatrics. So many of the same specialties that you will find in medicine, you can find in chiropractic. So if you want to be a pediatric chiropractor, it's a little extra education, but you could do that. My children see a pediatric chiropractor. My eldest Zoe was 10 hours old when she got her first adjustment. Unfortunately, when her sister was born 2 years later, our chiropractor was out of town. So Shannon had to wait 3 days. She had to wait 3 days for her adjustment. But, growing is a neurological function. And where children have the ability to literally form more perfectly than we did, chiropractic care can be even more profound in its effects on children to prevent studies showing the decreased cases of scoliosis, decreased cases of colic, childhood fevers, all kinds of things like that when the nervous system's running more efficiently. Geriatrics, hey, this country's getting older. And quality of life is the thing now. 40 is the new 30, well, 70 is the new 55. And people are not giving up their lifestyle just because they're getting older. And they are looking for ways to optimize their function straight into the home. So, absolutely. And sports. Right now, some of the most active and influential sports doctors are, in fact, chiropractors. I have a quick message from this guy, and I'll bet you that it's going to be all messed up, but I'm going to try it anyway. Hey.
Practically doing my pages. This will be my 30th season. When we deal with professional athletes, the urgency is to get them back into the game much faster, and they appreciate what you do for them. And it's a special feeling when you get recognized.
The on-field diagnostics is why chiropractors are starting to run the team physical medicine out there. Where you may or may not have direct access to physical therapy, depending on where they're traveling today or where the game is this week. But in all 50 states and territories, chiropractic is primary diagnostic. So when they run out onto the field, he or she can okay any physical treatment that goes from there on. Yeah.
How many female chiropractors are in sports?
I wish I had that statistic. I know a graduate from 3 years ago, Monica Anderson, who's in charge of state extreme team as their sports doc. But I'm sure I don't have how many female sports docs, at least at my fingertips, but I'll try hard to find that for you. Right now, the profession itself is about 60-40 male. School is about 50-50, maybe 55-45. More and more women coming to chiropractic all the time. But it took a while because there is a myth surrounding the strength and size requirements for chiropractic, which is a myth. Arnold Schwarzenegger, his spinal bones are this big. These football players. So it's really more about technique. You really don't want a 200-pound bruiser craning on your neck like this and resorting to strength when it really should be more like judo. It doesn't matter how big the other person is. You make a cavitation for the movement of the segment, and it moves. I think there's a general consensus around a lot of the Palmer instructors that in the clinic, coming into the clinic, the women are always better at their technique. Coming out of the clinic, they're about the same. But with their friends in class, more men have relied on strength when they should have been relying on technique. So if you're going to be treated by somebody in a chiropractic academic clinic, go for you. So is chiropractic right for me? You know, and there's a lot of stuff that I talked about, money, some other stuff like that. This is the stuff that we hope gets you up in the morning and gets you really interested in doing the same thing every day. Are you motivated to help people and want to be in a field where you actually make a difference? I mean, real quality of life issues. Are you interested in healthcare at all? Because it really is, you know, it's not like a personal trainer. It's you don't have clients, you have patients. So you really need to wish to be a physician. If you want to change lives and be appreciated by your patients, an opportunity to give back to your community. We think that these are the big four. You know, your purpose. Perhaps you are biased in favor of non-invasive, holistic, and integrative care. Or maybe you've been discouraged or always a little dubious of the rush to medication that often follows a 5-minute consultation, sometimes over the phone. You know, there's a lot of very, very scary side effects if you stay up past 10 o'clock at night and watch television. Class action suits for the pharmaceuticals you heard commercials about just last month. Sometimes it probably helps to see what your body's natural resources can do, because your pharmaceuticals will always be available. They will always be an option for you. Many have had enlightened experience with a chiropractor. Many people have been helped by a chiropractor. Many people get up, they feel great, and it never occurs to them, hey, I could do that too. Maybe that could be a career for me. Something to think about if you're feeling it. The possibilities is at your own hours. Be your own boss. And one of the best work-life balance out there, but definitely the best in healthcare. I did mention the ability to make for real positive changes in your patient, real quality of life issues with your own two hands, literally. But you don't need to worry about the drug interactions, at least that you cause. You don't need to worry about the serum sterilization problems in medicine. You don't need to have nearly the case of the terror in your patient's eyes when you come in. Like in the dentist. Imagine what the dentist feels like every single day, and every single day in that waiting room is just terror. It's maybe not the first 5 years, but that's got to start to hurt after a while. You know, psychologists, psychiatrists, the negativity that surrounds many healthcare kinds of things is much less and often absent in a chiropractic practice. And let's be honest, you'd like to make a reasonable living and get a good return on the money you spent on your education. And chiropractic is about as expensive as PT school with the benefits of med school. There is about a 2.5% to 3% default rate in chiropractic colleges on student loans. The national average is almost 16%. So please do consider chiropractic as a career, and I would love to talk to you more about my school if you'd like to. But right now, I'd like to take questions about any part of this. You were awesome. Anything? All right. Thank you very much for getting it. Okay.
How much of a role does nutrition play in chiropractic? Like, do chiropractors pay attention to that?
Yeah. So one of the most important aspects of chiropractic is lifestyle coaching. And that's everything from ergonomics to patterns of behavior which may be bad for your neurological integrity. And we can adjust somebody every week while they smoke themselves to death, for example. So lifestyle coaching to optimize the body's resources that we are opening up through our care is very, very important. The specific role that nutrition takes is going to be relative to your practice. So it's always going to be important. It's always going to be one of those things that you're going to be checking up on to see if they clearly have a D deficiency based on the physical symptoms or things like that. Whether or not you're that doctor that recommends nutritional supplements is going to be totally dependent on your kind of practice. Whether or not you're that person that recommends specific dietary changes. But you're always going to be promoting a healthy lifestyle and giving livable examples of that. So nutrition will always, and sometimes with some practices that I have visited, a very important part of the practice. They generally have lots of continuing education in nutrition as well.
Can you tell us some of the nuts and bolts of getting into your program?
Yes. So we're looking for students with a bachelor's degree in a relevant field. This is the optimal. So kinesiology, biology, physiology, health science, biosciences are all really good because they'll have your sciences. We're looking for a 3.0 GPA. The minimum requirements for chiropractic admissions is to have at least 90 semester credits of college. A four-year degree is not specifically necessary, but do it anyway. It really, really helps the student, not admissions-wise, but in the program. It really does. And to have, amongst that 90, at least 24 credits worth of sciences. Anybody with a relevant major will have much more than that. The science requirement is rather general, except that anatomy, physiology, and general chemistry must appear in your classes. So if you are one of the 4 or 5 California kidneys programs left with no chem, San Francisco State, get that chem some other way. Because of the diagnostic requirements of chiropractic, you'll be lost if you start learning graduate level biochemistry with no background. Other than that, you apply to our program. 9 months to a year is best. 6 months would be dead minimum to apply to our chiropractic program. Or a chiropractic program. And then all the California chiropractic colleges require an essay, a couple of letters of recommendation, and your transcripts. And after that, it's just a process. It's going to look real familiar to every other kind of grad school. I believe that only 2 chiropractic colleges in the country are still on standard academic calendar. Almost, 90% of chiropractic colleges have moved to a year-round calendar. So generally speaking, where chiropractic is a 4-year degree, the Doctor of Chiropractic degree, you tend to finish in 3 calendar years, unless you go back east.
And then is there an internship after?
So your last year is your clinical internship. And then there's generally a quarter, 3 months of a professional development term, like a preceptor. But this is a graduation requirement, so you haven't started paying your student loans back yet. And then there is no residency requirement for chiropractic the way there is for medicine. So you can start your practice right away and get your life back instead of working 2 years at a hospital for slave labor. That's kind of how it goes in medicine. Yeah.
What's the acceptance rate and the retention rate?
The acceptance rate is quite high. In chiropractic, in general, tends to be about 75%. Palmer is just a little less than that, but real close. Retention rate, I only have our retention rate. And for Palmer, we graduate almost 88% of our students. Was really high because people don't fall into chiropractic the way they do with other things. I mean, I would love it if it was purely the brilliance of our instruction, and I'm sure that's part of it. But people really carefully consider their options before coming to chiropractic. So these are really prepared and really informed people, and they're committed. So the ones that don't make it either overestimated themselves, or usually something happens. You know, there's a birth, there's a death, and they have to go. 90% of the time, that's what life happens.
Do your students normally work while they're in school?
No. In fact, we do everything we can to discourage them from working, at least in the first year. I mean, we'll throw ourselves in front of their car if we have to, because it is a fast road to failure. It's very busy. It's med school. Come to chiropractic college with the expectations of med school. You know, there's homework to do every night. There's long hours, 8-hour days every day in school. Students generally have about 6 or 8 hours a day to themselves, and they use them to sleep. So if you take a part-time job, something's got to give. Psychologically, you're likely not going to be fired from chiropractic school, at least not to the end of the term. So people kind of fudge that toward a job where they're evaluated every day. And we have seen people with really promising careers ruin it on a stupid part-time job at CVS. Don't do it.
Do you know how they survive that?
Yeah, student loans.
Okay.
It's just, if you happen to be a trust fund baby, congratulations. Awesome. The vast majority of us are going to be doing student loans, and that is how this country makes doctors. You know, there's a lot of grants and things like that for undergrad, but when it comes to loans, they're loans. So try for as many scholarships as you can, and then just get real zen about it. You're not going to pay cash for your house either. Just get real zen about it. I owe a ton of money. I'm worth it. I'm taking out stock in myself. I'm not paying for something. I'm buying stock in myself. I told you our student default rate, 3%. So you'll pay it. This is real safe, but you have to be committed. And you have to know that you're committing yourself to holistic and natural care, that you're taking out a loan and you're worth it. And then get real zen with it, because I know students who come in every quarter and they're getting their student loan check and flipping out for 2 hours. You know, because that money just keeps going up as you go through school, right? Well, you knew it was going to be $100,000 when you started, so you'll be okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So here's some materials on Palmer. I know I wanted to get your information, especially because you're looking at both chiropractic colleges. Let me know if you guys have any questions specific to my school.